Dwayne Patterson in today for Hugh Hewitt, who is on his Hillsdale College cruise, halfway through that trip. Even though Dr. Arnn and Dr. Larry Arnn and Hugh are on that Hillsdale cruise, they still had time to record an edition of the Hillsdale Dialogue, which you will hear in hour 3 today, on this 81st anniversary of D-Day. And they do talk about Churchill a lot in it, and it's definitely worth your attention in hour 3 if you do have the time and ability. I am here to welcome you to the fallout, the smoking wreckage after the 24-hour news cycle that saw a very public dust-up between Donald Trump and Elon Musk on Truth Social and X yesterday. It went from zero to white hot, DEFCON 1, whatever analogy you want to use, in a very short period of time. And for half an hour or to an hour, the haymakers were coming. And I've got lots to say about that and what to make of this. I may talk to our guests about it as well. Joining us in a little bit will be Bethany Mandel, who in the middle of this said, I think I'm taking this news cycle off. Thank you very much. I kind of don't blame her. We will be talking with Matt Continetti a little bit later in the program. In hour 2, we will be talking with Eli Lake, the great podcaster and columnist over at the Free Press. And just lots ahead. But today is June 6th. Today is D-Day, the anniversary of what happened on Omaha Beach and on Pointe du Hoc, and all the different fronts by which the United States and our allies stormed the beaches of Normandy to begin the process of reconquering Europe, taking back the continent from the Nazis in World War II. It is a very sober and solemn day. Thousands and thousands and thousands of lives were lost storming that beach. But the determination, the grit, the sacrifice, the willingness to sacrifice to do a just cause still reverberates 81 years later. And quite simply, without that sacrifice, none of us would be here today. We would not have the freedoms we enjoy today. We would not have the ability to complain about things the way we seem to do today. The world would look radically different and not in a better way had it not been for what took place 81 years ago today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in the front part of each hour to remember 2 phenomenal speeches from Normandy. I had the fortune to be on a listener cruise with Hugh a few years ago. And we started in Paris and sailed down the Seine River and ended up in Normandy. And so I actually got a chance to walk the grounds. I got to stand where Reagan gave his speech in 1984. I got to walk the actual beach of Omaha Beach. And when you're there and you actually see it for yourself and see what just the unmistakable horror that face these guys coming off of the boats or climbing the cliffs, it really puts it into perspective that there are things larger than whatever problems you think you have. I want to play a couple of clips from 2 rather magnificent speeches from all time. One of them was, of course, Ronald Reagan's speech 41 years ago on the 40th anniversary. Let's play a little Ronald Reagan. Cut number 11, please.
Here in Normandy, the rescue began. Here the Allies stood and fought against tyranny in a giant undertaking unparalleled in human history. We stand on a lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. The air is soft, but 40 years ago at this moment, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men, and the air was filled with the crack of rifle fire and the roar of cannon. At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. Their mission was one of the most difficult and daring of the invasion. to climb these sheer and desolate cliffs and take out the enemy guns. The Allies had been told that some of the mightiest of these guns were here, and they would be trained on the beaches to stop the Allied advance. The Rangers looked up and saw the enemy soldiers, the edge of the cliffs, shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades, and the American Rangers began to climb. They shot rope ladders over the face of these cliffs and began to pull themselves up. When one Ranger fell, another would take his place. When one rope was cut, a Ranger would grab another and begin his climb again. They climbed, shot back, and held their footing. Soon, one by one, the Rangers pulled themselves over the top, and in seizing the firm land at the top of these cliffs, they began to seize back the continent of Europe. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. And behind me is a memorial that symbolizes the Ranger daggers that were thrust into the top of these cliffs. And before me are the men who put them there. These are the boys of Puente Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. And these are the heroes who helped end a war.
Heroes indeed. I got to walk the burial grounds, the cemetery at Normandy, and again, you don't have to ask people to be quiet and show respect. It's just a given as soon as you step off of the tour bus and as soon as you walk onto the grounds. It is an amazing, humbling, sobering experience. 35 years after that speech, Donald Trump revisited Normandy on the 75th anniversary, and he gave a phenomenal speech. Let's play a little Ronald Reagan from 2019. Cut number 13, please.
7 decades ago, the warriors of D-Day fought a sinister enemy who spoke of a 1,000-year empire. In defeating that evil, they left a legacy that will last not only for 1,000 years, but for all time. For as long as the soul knows of duty and honor, for as long as freedom keeps its hold on the human heart. To the men who sit behind me and to the boys who rest in the field before me, your example will never, ever grow old. Your legend will never die. Your spirit, brave, unyielding, and true, will never die. The blood that they spilled, the tears that they shed, the lives that they gave, the sacrifice that they made, did not just win a battle. It did not just win a war. Those who fought here won a future for our nation. They won the survival of our civilization. And they showed us the way to love, cherish, and defend our way of life for many centuries to come.
Okay, we're going to go to a break and be joined by Bethany Mandel. It really is emotional every time you hear these speeches. We have no way to say thank you other than just to say thank you for the sacrifice and the service and the commitment. But we wouldn't be here without what took place 81 years ago today, and that's the big picture you need to remember. I am joined by somebody who has turned into a pretty good friend of mine over the last couple of years as a weekly guest on the show, and I hope you enjoy the conversations with her as much as I do. This is Bethany Mandel. She is the co-author of Stolen Youth, the great book. She is the co-founder of the Mom Wars, and Bethany, welcome. I noticed on Twitter yesterday you said, you'll excuse me if I'm just going to go ahead and take this news cycle off. You actually didn't take the news cycle off, though, did you?
Why did some? Are you going to make me talk about this now?
No. I'm just asking. I mean, did you were on Fox this morning? Did anything of interest in the last 24 hours come up in your Fox appearance?
I talked about the Colorado attack and nothing else. Thank God.
Okay. So, you are the mom of 6 relative Smalls. Did everybody in the country focus in on the war between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, or did the country by and large ignore it? I mean, I'm a Beltway guy by extension because of what I do for a living. So, of course, we were riveted by it. It was wildly entertaining, if not kind of ridiculous all the way around. But I don't know how the rest of the country reacted to it, or if they did at all. Did anybody even pay attention to it?
I think so. I mean, I think that there's people who are not Trump fans who are just, this is exactly what we hated. This is exactly, he's so shameful. But I think everyone else, I mean, they voted for a reality star, and we're getting some reality television. This is it.
It is. Now, the way that I look at it is, it seems to me that we've seen Donald Trump, when anybody even sneezes maliciously in his direction online, ever since he came down the escalator in 2015, he's a brawler. He's a bruiser. He punches back, and he punches back hard. I didn't see that out of Trump this time. I don't think he pushed back on Elon anywhere near as hard as maybe we might have expected. What do you think?
I semi-suspect, I'm a little bit of a truther about this feud. Perhaps it's staged. I think that Elon has a lot of reason to be frustrated with the fact that a lot of what he just spent the last 6 months doing will be washed away by pork in this bill. But I don't know. A lot of it feels really contrived and really silly. I would not be surprised if this was all orchestrated behind the scenes.
There is that theory out there, and I would have to say it's a non-zero chance that it's complete nonsense. There is a chance that is the case. I'm under the impression that one of the reasons why you have a more reserved Donald Trump than you might have otherwise expected is the hand of Susie Wiles in this. I think that this could have been a lot worse than it really was, considering how quick to DEFCON 1 Elon took this. I want to take this in a different direction, because while all this was going on, there was all sorts of other news that took place. And one of those was a story that completely missed me, and I'm a person that is a Disneyland fan. My 2 kids work for the House of Mouse. My wife and I have passes. We go all the time. There was this New York Post piece that you kind of teed off on about a mom who has an 8 and a 10-year-old and went through Disneyland with probably the largest stroller I've ever seen. And that is the bane of my existence as a grown-up trying to navigate through Disneyland. What should be the limit on smalls in strollers at a theme park?
So, with the caveat, obviously, that if these kids had special needs, obviously this changes things.
Which was not spelled out in the story, by the way.
No, not at all. I think 3-4 years old. I mean, I went to London with 5 kids by myself last month, and the first day that we were there, our stroller did not make it. I still haven't gotten it back from the airline. And my 3-year-old walked 7 miles through London by himself, almost not carried at all. I don't think it's a big ask to tell kids you can walk through Disney.
If they cannot get through the park, that means you have a very short day at the park. And I am just fine with that. Right?
I mean, I wouldn't be. You know how much that costs?
Oh, yeah. It's what, $200 a head,
man.
roughly.
Most expensive day of your life.
Absolutely. And if the kids aren't jacked up enough to be able to make it through and be excited enough for the experience, that at 10 years old they need a chauffeured ride through the park. You know, I'm thinking maybe they don't appreciate the experience yet. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So we're 81 years on D-Day. D-Day, the anniversary of the storming of Normandy took place, and we have a group of people that still want to look at what Donald Trump is trying to do with the spending bill as the same thing. Robert Francis O'Rourke, Beto O'Rourke in Texas, compared the sacrifice on D-Day to trying to protect climate change nonsense that's being cut out of the spending bill, out of the big beautiful bill. Bethany, is there ever going to be a period of time when the Democratic Party is at least serious about what happened in history and respectful about history?
They would have to know what happened in history in order for them to be respectful about history. If you look at our education system, I mean, it's harder to get a sense from the testing on what kids understand about history. But we understand that they're not learning how to read and they're not learning math. So, you know, let's deduce the fact that they're probably not learning a lot of history either. I mean, I think that there's entire generations of kids who are growing up not knowing what D-Day was and not understanding the miracle that happened, you know, on those shores in Normandy 81 years ago. And it truly is a miracle from God. I was at Normandy a year ago, almost exactly. We were reburying a soldier with Operation Benjamin. Shalom Lamb was on your show a couple weeks ago. Yep. And to see, I didn't expect to feel emotional. I'm not an emotional woman. And I stood there and I just saw, as far as the eye could see, crosses and stars, and I teared up. I mean, it's an incredible place. And I think, you know, a lot of kids and a lot of Democrats who, you know, control school systems across the country don't understand the sacrifice that happened there 81 years ago.
It really should be. You know, I don't want to make anything mandatory. I'm not a mandate type of person. But man, if you're a parent, you're not doing it right. If you don't somewhere along the way take your kids to see what actually took place in World War II to make all of this possible. Bethany, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Follow her online at Bethany Shondark, Shondark. And subscribe to the Mom Wars, the great Substack over there, and read all of Bethany's stuff. She is a terrific, terrific person. Joined by the great Matt Continetti of the American Enterprise Institute and of Commentary Magazine and of the Free Press and of the Free Beacon, and one of the smartest people I happen to know. And Matt, I'm ashamed, and I was very reticent of even broaching the subject with you, because I noticed I read every single one of your tweets online on X over the last 36 hours, every single one of them, and there is something missing from every single one of those tweets over the last 36 hours. And I didn't even want to go down the road of what you think about the dumb Elon Musk feud with Donald Trump, except the question was asked of Victor Davis Hanson, who I think is smarter than the two of us combined.
Yes.
And if Victor Hanson can have to be forced to answer that question, then Matt Continetti can take a whack at it. What do you make of the last 24 hours?
Well, I think it's been incredible, Dwayne, and it's good to see you. I think we knew that somehow the Elon Musk-President Trump relationship was going to end. I don't think we knew it would end in quite this manner. It was just a week ago, since you and I are talking, a week ago, or before our last conversation, where Elon Musk was in the Oval Office and Donald Trump was handing him the key to the White House.
Yep.
And now we're in a situation where I think Donald Trump may have changed all the locks to the White House to keep
yes.
Elon Musk from coming in. And so what happened here? It did start as a policy disagreement, Musk coming out in public against the one big beautiful bill, the centerpiece of Trump's agenda. But I think beneath the surface, there was a lot of personal tension. I think Musk was disappointed in the way that he left the White House, that he wasn't able to stay on. Then his friend and his selection to be the next NASA administrator was turned out. That nomination was withdrawn. Musk, of course, had been the subject of a lot of negative media stories about the fact that Doge came up with about $160+ billion in savings, whereas Musk had promised trillions in savings. And so I think he kind of just exploded, and he began this campaign against Trump, not recognizing that when the world's richest man is up against the world's most powerful man, the world's most powerful man is going to win.
Almost every time. Almost every time.
Yep.
When he started going down the road of, and you could see this crack up coming even a couple of days ago in the Wall Street Journal. In the Wall Street Journal, Elon was complaining about pork, but he didn't complain about the other pork that was in there. He still wanted to protect the EV stuff that was in there. This was his words in the Wall Street Journal. But he wanted to get rid of some of the other oil and gas stuff that was in the Big Beautiful Bill. That's kind of why he didn't like it. If you're going to be against the waste and the fraud and the pork, you got to be against the pork. But it's kind of he's kind of cherry picking which pieces of pork he doesn't like anymore. And I don't think that's gonna hold too long for him. Trump was able to push back at the narrative pretty effectively this week. In Elon Musk is the oligarch. He's running the country. You know, we heard, how many times do we hear the media give us this mantra of the country's really being run by Elon Musk? You had Time Magazine with Musk behind the resolute desk. He's really running the country. That narrative's kind of gone now, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, well, it was never true to begin with.
It was never true.
You know, I think when Elon was there, he was there as this special government employee. He was giving up time managing his businesses. He was taking a huge hit to his businesses. I think he endured sacrifice, undeservedly, for taking this job in order to try to make government more efficient. But Trump was still the boss. And it was interesting during that time, Elon was almost serving as a heat shield for Trump. Musk's ratings, his favorability plunged. He's much less popular than Trump is.
Absolutely.
Now. And so it wasn't just a financial hit, it was a reputational hit. And I think when he left the White House, there was an understanding that he wanted to go back and he wanted to reconnect with his businesses, all important companies from Starlink to Tesla to X to SpaceX. And he would do that by avoiding politics. Yet within days, he plunged right back into politics. And Dwayne, if it was just a policy disagreement, first, if you really need to get serious about the debt, which we do, you have to address entitlements, which are off the table.
Yes,
But if it was just policy, don't call for Trump's impeachment, which is what Musk did in a post after.
Absolutely, 100% agreement. Absolutely, I said this on my podcast. That my Dwayne's World podcast that came out today is if we're going to be serious about really making meaningful cuts, you can't avoid the biggest one of them all, which is entitlements. Matt, we closed out the segment with Bethany Mandel lamenting that we're not teaching kids history anymore, among all sorts of other things that we're not teaching. And I noticed this week there was a House hearing featuring Democrat Melanie Stansbury. And she decided to fight back at all of the activity of the federal government to strip funding, strip foreign students, strip accreditation possibly from the elites. Columbia, Harvard, all the schools that seem to want to discriminate on the basis of religion as long as they're Jews, above all else. And it's her way of fighting back on this was to adopt the Martin Niemöller First They Came For poem and setting history completely on its head. I don't think she understands the irony of using Niemöller to support the people that were persecuting the Jews. Matt Continetti.
No, that's so right, Dwayne. I missed that congressional hearing, but you're absolutely right. This type of kind of situational ethics of liberals and progressives we see all the time. They change their positions based on whatever seems to be the cause of the moment or whatever makes them feel more morally virtuous at the moment. But then it's also true, this broader point that Bethany you have brought up about just our historical ignorance. It's something that I think Americans have to confront. You know, we always have to remember that each new generation is essentially a group of barbarians, and it's our responsibility as adults and parents and teachers to educate these barbarians and to teach them our civilization and our traditions. And of course, how do you learn traditions? You learn history. And I do think that that's actually one benefit of President Trump's administrations over time, is that he has paid attention to not just to talking about American history, but to celebrating American history, to be talking that America should not always be bending the knee, but that we have a lot to be proud of, and we have a great future ahead of us as well.
Very good point. Speaking of the president, he tweeted out this morning, again, say what you want about whatever took place yesterday in the war with Elon Musk online. I kind of think that Donald Trump could have been a lot harsher and has been a lot harsher to his critics than what he was towards Elon Musk. But he seems to be just pressing on with running the country and doing the country's business. He announced, I am pleased to announce that Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer will be meeting in London on Monday, June 9th, with representatives of China with reference to the trade deal. The meeting should go very well. Thank you for your attention in this matter. This, of course, comes after an hour-and-a-half conversation the president had with Xi Jinping, a day and a half, 2 days ago? What's your prospects for? How do you read the tea leaves here?
Well, I think what we have to pay attention to are these rare earth minerals, this strategic commodity, which is essential to various American manufacturing processes. And China said, as part of the original deal struck with the U.S. in Geneva, that they would allow the export of these rare earths so that the American economy would not be harmed. But as President Trump has pointed out, it's been very difficult. Now, one takeaway from that conversation he had with the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, was that the Chinese promised to open up their exports of these rare earths. I think that's what this deal is going to go after when they meet this weekend, the two delegations. And I'd also pay attention to how Trump referred to the Chinese students' visit in the country, which his government has tried to prevent now. And Secretary Rubio has said, we're not going to have these visas. I wonder if that's one of the cards that President Trump has to play, these Chinese student visa holders, in order to get China to release more of these rare earth minerals so that the American economy does not spiral out of control. Donald Trump's done a very good job so far in walking this tightrope, rather, of making sure that we are resetting the trade relationship with China while also having the markets improve. The inflation data has been well. We got a new job numbers today that was above expectations. Incomes are rising. So I expect him to continue this very delicate diplomatic operation, trying to further American economic and national security interests, while also recognizing that Americans' economy is still so entangled with China that if we just cut it off totally, we would also be hurt. And China would be hurt a lot more, too.
I think absolutely right. I think you're absolutely correct here. He's pressing for the reform he wants, and he's making progress down that road while still recognizing that there has to be a transition period where you kind of have to play footsies with them at the same time so that both countries don't go belly up in the process. Speaking of diplomatic nuance here and walking the tightrope, I'm coming to you, of course, from our Southern California Relief Factor studios, and I read in CNN, and again, if I'm reading it in CNN, I don't know if it's true or not. It's CNN, but according to Annie Grayer and Gabe Cohen, writers of the CNN, Donald Trump is now preparing a large-scale cancellation of federal funding for California because California is not comporting to discrimination laws. And, they still seem to want to be a sanctuary state. They still want to allow transgender boys to play in girls' sports, all that kind of stuff. They're not caving. California's not caving. And Donald Trump's going to pull the ripcord on all the funding.
Yeah. I think specifically we have these incidents of biological men in women's sports competitions in California, female athletes trying to protest this involvement, and the female athletes are the ones who are punished. And so President Trump is looking at that. He's looking at Governor Newsom's, stated position on podcasts, trying to rehabilitate his political profile by saying that he doesn't agree with biological men and women's sports. And Donald Trump's going to call him on it, and he's right to, and he has public opinion behind him.
15 seconds. How fast do you think Gavin Newsom in California caves?
Fast, but not fast enough. Let's put it that way. We might have to go to court first.
Oh, boy. And I'm in California, and I'm telling you, I voted for this. Matt Continetti, thanks as always for the time. We'll talk to you next week. Follow him on Twitter, X, @Continetti. I started the show and have been having this in the back of my head all the way through today's program, and that is remembering with all solemnity the 81st anniversary of the D-Day raid in Normandy. What took place that day is something every American owes a debt of gratitude that they cannot repay. All we can say is thank you and honor their service. There is almost nothing we can do to pay them back. But I'll tell you one thing you can do, maybe in a vet's name, in the memory of somebody in your family maybe who made that sacrifice, is you can give hope to the next generation that they wouldn't otherwise have. Over at HughHewitt.com, at the top of the page, is an angel tree banner to help send children who wouldn't have the means or resources otherwise, without your gift, without your help, to go to summer camp. These are kids whose parents have either one or both been incarcerated, and they don't really know what the future holds for them, if anything. And for a week, they can put all that aside, and they get ministered to at their level where they're at. That's what these angel tree camps do. I want you to hear Jennifer in this little clip as to what angel tree camps do.
Getting to see the kids is so encouraging. God is at work. Their little hearts are open and they need hope. And I think that's what I've heard in every story that the kids have shared, is that there is hope, and that's in Christ. So it's life-changing.
$200 is all it takes to send a kid to camp for a week. And that's not a big lift for most of this audience. To some people in the audience, that is a big lift. Maybe $50 is a lot easier to ask. If that's the case, it takes 4 of you to put together to be able to send a kid to camp. And that's great, too. Go to the top of HughHewitt.com, click on the Angel Tree banner, or call 888-206-2764. 888-206-2764. Even with Hugh being gone on vacation, this audience is still coming through in waves, and we are very appreciative of it, and we hope you continue to do so. Also want to do a quick market update. The market was up big today. Of course, this is brought to us by our friends at AmericanFederal.com, 800-221-7694, or you can go to AmericanFederal.com. The market is booming today. The Dow is up quite a bit, almost 500 points. S&P, NASDAQ, maybe largely because of the news of China trade, the economic news that was released yesterday, all sorts of good news. Gold, by the way, is down. Because the other economic news is so good. Gold lost about $20. Is that going to continue? Is it now on a downward trend, or is it just a buy point? Call Nick Grovich and his team right now, 800-221-7694. He'll give you the straight scoop and tell you if you think this is a good buy point or not. AmericanFederal.com or 800-221-7694. The news cycle, if it's not absurd and ridiculous, it's just not. It's not 2025. A couple of quick things, and then I want to also series up and remind everybody of the anniversary of D-Day, and do that in the best way possible. But I got to give you the breaking news that happened over the break. Number one, You remember Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Maryland man? Remember that guy? Chris Van Hollen's favorite constituent? The guy that he left the country for to go to El Salvador and visit and have margaritas with, and has been fighting for his return to the U.S. ever since, even though the guy beat his wife and is a human trafficker, that guy. Well, apparently he's on a plane right now. He has left the El Salvadoran prison in which he was a current occupant, and he is now on his way back to the United States, where he will face immediate criminal charges for his activities. And one would hope that the Department of Justice has had plenty of time to build that case and have that hearing that they should have had all the way along. Remember, he was okayed by both a district court and an appellate court to be deported. He just couldn't be deported to El Salvador. That was the only catch. Well, he's coming back, and the government is now going to layer on additional charges on him that we have now learned. And they are going to make the case that, he's already been eligible to deport. We're going to deport him. And we think El Salvador is a fine place now compared to what it was when he claimed asylum. He wasn't killed like he was feared he was going to be killed by a rival gang. And he's an El Salvadoran citizen anyway, so he should go back to El Salvador. This could be a weekend trip for Abrego Garcia, unless, of course, a court and the Democrats decide to welcome him home and celebrate it, which I can't wait to see if they actually pull that off. Second piece of news. You see a lot of Democrats complaining that all these ICE agents in these raids are wearing masks, not because they're afraid of catching the COVIDs, but because they don't want to be identified and have all sorts of persecution for basically conducting raids and collecting illegal aliens and deporting them and being doxxed and having all sorts of bad things happen to them. So Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, holds a press conference along with everybody else on the city council, all in masks, mind you, saying that ICE agents were like neo-Nazis because they're wearing masks. Quote, "I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks." And then she talked about some radical group that wears masks while wearing a mask herself. I mean, it's just absurd, these people. Speaking of absurd, I will give you my take on the fallout between Donald Trump and Elon Musk after the break. I've got a lot of things to say about that. But it is the 81st anniversary of D-Day. I played a couple clips in the first segment. I want to play a couple more clips. One by former President Ronald Reagan, one by Donald Trump at the 40th and the 75th memorial ceremony, respectively. And both of them are talking about the faith involved of these guys that did this heroic act. Let's play cut number 12.
The men of Normandy had faith that what they were doing was right, faith that they fought for all humanity, faith that a just God would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. It was the deep knowledge, and pray God we have not lost it, that there is a profound moral difference between the use of force for liberation and the use of force for conquest. You were here to liberate, not to conquer, and so you and those others did not doubt your cause, and you were right not to doubt. You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. All of you loved liberty. All of you were willing to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you. The Americans who fought here that morning knew word of the invasion was spreading through the darkness back home. They fought or felt in their hearts, though they couldn't know in fact, that in Georgia they were filling the churches at 4 a.m. In Kansas, they were kneeling on their porches and praying. And in Philadelphia, they were ringing the Liberty Bell. Something else helped the men of D-Day: their rock-hard belief that Providence would have a great hand in the events that would unfold here. that God was an ally in this great cause. And so the night before the invasion, when Colonel Wolverton asked his parachute troops to kneel with him in prayer, he told them, "Do not bow your heads, but look up so you can see God and ask his blessing in what we are about to do." Also that night, General Matthew Ridgway on his cot, listening in the darkness for the promise God made to Joshua, "I will not fail thee nor forsake thee."
35 years later, Donald Trump was still reflecting upon the faith it took to accomplish the mission that had to have God's hand on it. Cut number 14.
From across the earth, Americans are drawn to this place as though it were a part of our very soul. We come not only because of what they did here, we come because of who they were. They were young men with their entire lives before them. They were husbands who said goodbye to their young brides and took their duty as their fate. They were fathers who would never meet their infant sons and daughters because they had a job to do. And with God as their witness, they were going to get it done. They came wave after wave, without question, without hesitation, and without complaint. More powerful than the strength of American arms was the strength of American hearts. These men ran through the fires of hell, moved by a force no weapon could destroy. The fierce patriotism of a free, proud, and sovereign people. They battled not for control and domination, but for liberty, democracy, and self-rule. They pressed on for love and home and country, the main streets, the schoolyards, the churches, and neighbors, the families and communities that gave us men such as these. They were sustained by the confidence that America can do anything because we are a noble nation with a virtuous people praying to a righteous God. The exceptional might came from a truly exceptional spirit. The abundance of courage came from an abundance of faith. The great deeds of an army came from the great depths of their love. As they confronted their fate, the Americans and the Allies placed themselves into the palm of God's hand.
It really was a beautiful speech by Donald Trump, and, of course, one of the all-timers by Ronald Reagan. We owe a debt of gratitude, and on behalf of everybody, we thank everybody that made the sacrifice and fought to retake the continent 81 years ago. I hope you watched in that last segment, especially if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, I hope you saw those clips of Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump at Normandy, because they are just powerful speeches, moving speeches. If you're not moved by what took place when you reflect on it, then I really don't know what to do with you. And if you are moved, you're like, okay, well, I wish I knew somebody that I could thank. I wish there was somebody I could shake their hand and honor their service. Well, if you have somebody in your family, great, but you may not. You may only be able to remember people way back in your family who have passed on that served. But here's one thing you can do. You can pick a kid that you don't even know, that you haven't even met, that is in a really bad circumstance in life because their parents are incarcerated. And you can say, you know what? For $200, I'm going to send them to summer camp, and I'm going to break that cycle. I'm going to give them a chance. That's my way of saying thanks. is to help the next generation along. You can be that miracle. You can be that hero for that kid. Go to the top of the HughHewitt.com page when it loads, and you'll see a banner for Angel Tree. Click on that banner. It takes $200 to send a kid to camp for a week and change their lives. I mean, you can hear thousands of stories year after year all over the country about how summer camp changes kids' lives. You know that does. You know that works. Why not be that hero for a kid that wouldn't otherwise have a chance to go? 888-206-2764 is the old-fashioned way if you want to call in a donation, 888-206-2764. But the easiest way is just to go to HughHewitt.com, click on that banner. You can do it right now. Just takes a minute, and I would really appreciate it if you would. Also want to remind people that we had news out of New Hampshire this week that they became the 17th state in the union that has passed a school choice bill, a school choice freedom bill. Kelly Ayotte, the governor of the great state of New Hampshire, has signed that into law. And that's, you know whose fingerprints are all over that legislation, how that got through their state legislature? That's our friends at ALEC, at the American Legislative Exchange Council. They work daily with the crucible of policy in this country, which is all the 50 states' legislative bureaus. It can be tax reform, it can be regulatory reform, it can be school choice issues, all the issues that conservatives care about. ALEC works on the state level in the state legislatures, and you can help them out too, or at least keep informed about what they're doing by signing up for their newsletter. ALEC, ALEC.org/Hugh. That's ALEC.org/Hugh. Go check them out because they're a group to watch and support as well. Now, there's been lots of interesting things said in the wake of the Elon Musk-Donald Trump spat. A lot of it by Democrats absolutely mindlessly inane and opportunistic. They seem to think there's now a chance to win Elon Musk back over. On Fox this morning, Megan Hayes, a former Biden official, is reacting to a tweet by Ro Khanna, congressman from my neck of the woods in Southern California. Listen to this, cut 16.
Here's what Ro Khanna wrote on X. When we refused to meet with Robert Kennedy Jr., Trump embraced him and won. We can be the party of sanctimonious lectures or the party of FDR that knows how to win and build a progressive majority. Will you welcome Elon back into the fold?
I mean, come on over. The water is warm. I am for anybody who is going to help working class families and to keep 14 million people on Medicare and to keep 18 million kids getting food assistance programs with this bill. So if Elon Musk wants to help do that, he is more than welcome.
But that's not what he said he wants to do. What he said he wants to do is cut stuff. But the Democrats are like, oh, come on over, Elon. Oh, come on back. Wait, what's that? We need your money is what we really need. Here's what it really got down to. Katie Tur on MSNBC, cut 4.
So what do the Democrats do with someone like Elon Musk, given how powerful he is? Do they keep trying to push him off to the sidelines, given how erratic he is, given his, there's been a lot over the past year, or do they try to recruit him back into the fold? Because again, that money with our campaign finance laws,
it's
which I
the
think
money.
are broken.
That's all we need from Katie Tur because she gave the game away. We know he's crazy. We don't like him. He turned to the dark side, but boy, is he stinking rich. Boy, could we use his money. We've got to win him back. The group that wants to win him back is the same group that gave us this, cut number 6.
Right? His little salute thing, he's like, I'm just going to ride even that, even though that's the most possible negative attention you could get.
The perfect example of that was he did the salute not once but twice.
Twice.
I can't read his mind about what was in his heart and what he wanted to do. What I can tell you, though, is after the controversy, he went online and made a bunch of Nazi jokes.
Those comments came just days after Musk made that gesture at
so
an
you
inauguration
get it.
event.
I can do this montage for 6 minutes of mainstream media, resistance media, referring to what Elon Musk did as a Nazi salute. He's Hitler. He's awful. On PBS this week, you had David Brooks say that, well, I'm not comparing him to Pol Pot and Stalin and Mao, But boy, has Elon killed a lot of people with his USAID, and it's you add it up over 4 years when all these cuts take place, he's going to have killed just about as many people. That's the mentality of these people, right? Oligarchs. You heard the left say, "Oh, the country's being run by oligarchs." You remember Chuck Schumer on The View just a month and a half ago? Cut 2.
So a lot of people responded to the anguish. I appreciate it. I am I wake up 3 a.m. sometimes, so worried about the future of the country under these oligarchs or
oligarchs.
Or,
oligarchs. We have to save the country from the oligarchs, says this guy now. Cut 3.
How does Musk's opposition change your approach to fight against this?
Well, Musk's opposition shows how bad, if even Elon Musk, who's been part of the whole process and is Trump's buddy, says the bill is bad, you can imagine how bad this bill is.
Well, I think that Musk is disagreeing with the spending cuts, right?
Yes, he's disagreeing with the spending.
I just read you what Musk said. He said people should be ashamed to vote for this bill. I agree with him.
I agree with Musk, says Chuck Schumer. The oligarchs. So we're supposed to believe that the Democrats are now for the oligarchs? Are they now for cutting spending? Is that what they're claiming? Because I don't think that's what the modern day Democrats believe. I think they just see a rift developing between Musk and Trump and see money as an opportunity. They're feckless, vapid, and pretty much worthless. Joined by another good friend, Eli Lake, who is a columnist extraordinaire for the Free Press, author of a bunch of good books, and also the podcaster of Breaking History, a great new podcast. Eli, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Dwayne. I'm sorry about my voice.
That's okay. I'm blaming it on the Elon Musk Donald Trump wars and your reaction to it. That's what I'm blaming the lost vocal cords on. It was one of those kind of days. Eli, let's start with the week and then kind of work our way through, because I want to get your take on a bunch of stuff that kind of got lost in the periphery of what we all witnessed online yesterday. But it's actually more important. I want to start with what Dr. Michael Oren called earlier in the week, the blood libel that the IDF allegedly killed 26, 31, whatever number the Hamas or the Gaza Health Ministry invented. That is still ongoing. That myth, that lie, that blood libel is still ongoing, is it not?
Well, it depends on what incident you're talking about. Again, I'm sorry about my voice. There was one of these things, but it looks like Hamas is instigating these conflicts. So this is the lifeline for them. What this means is essentially, sorry, what this means is that you're cutting off their last leverage in Gaza, the ability to distribute the food. I am so sorry about my voice.
That's okay. That's okay, Eli. We'll probably just keep it in one segment this week and let you heal up. I wanted to get your take on the news we learned today, which is that China has, or Iran and China have negotiated a deal for a ballistic weapons program that we were reliably told by the Iranians that they do not have. We also learned that the next round of negotiations between the U.S. and China are going to take place in London on Monday. Do you think the side deal that the CHICOMs, the CCP, is doing with Iran is going to be part of what happens in London on Monday?
I don't think there's any leverage right now. China's chosen a side. It's on the side of Russia and Iran. And, I mean, I hope that there's some stability, but I just think that this is a done deal at this point.
You saw, of course, that Donald Trump's red line in any proposed deal with the Iranians, the non-starter on the American side, the non-starter for Donald Trump, the line that cannot be crossed, is Iran cannot have any enrichment whatsoever of uranium. They are not allowed to enrich, period. That is the red line. We heard from the Ayatollah Khamenei, what was it, yesterday I think I saw on your feed, that the Ayatollah said that under no circumstance will we not do anything but enrich uranium, and that's a non-starter for us. That's a deal breaker for us. Anything that touches our ability to enrich is a non-starter as far as we're concerned. So I think I share your sentiment, Eli, which is, okay, so we can dispense now with the myth of a deal and move on to the next phase in the immortal words of our late dear friend Michael Ledeen, faster, please, right?
100%. I think you got it. Listen, I think that if they want to negotiate, let Israel bomb, then negotiate. That's my view. Now's the opportunity.
Yeah, now's the opportunity. Do you think that... Yeah. Do you think that Donald Trump has a date in his head that is a red line date of when he's going to go? We only have about 30 seconds left, Eli. Do you think Trump's got a date in his head, or is he still trying to ride this out as long as possible?
I think he's lost patience. He keeps talking about Iranians tapping us along. So hopefully he'll shut it down, but we'll see.
We'll see. Eli, rest up, get your voice better. We need you. We need the podcast. It's okay. I'm glad you still made the appearance. Eli Lake, at Eli Lake online. Go to Breaking History, the great podcast by Eli Lake. And again, one of the smarter guys that you can listen to and get informed about over at the Free Press. Even though it's a Friday, and even though it's, school's out for a lot of people, the news marches merrily along, and there's breaking news. Of course, if you hadn't heard, Kilmar Brega Garcia, the so-called Maryland man, that's actually an El Salvadoran, is on his way back to the U.S. Stephen Miller, Deputy Assistant to the President, Deputy Chief of Staff, said, quote, "Let this be a warning to all foreign criminals engaged in human smuggling and trafficking. You're still going to do a hard time. You may come back here and do a hard time, but you're going to do a hard time, and then you will be deported." Pam Bondi held a press conference a little while ago and said he's going to face down his crimes, and then he's going to be deported, most likely back to El Salvador when it's all said and done. Donald Trump actually rolled up two more legal victories today, one at the appellate court level, one at the United States Supreme Court level. On the appellate court level, the court there ruled that Donald Trump is allowed to bar the Associated Press from the Oval Office. Remember, that was an executive order he signed. It was enjoined by a district court saying, not fair, not fair, not fair. And that immediately got appealed. It went up to I believe it was the D.C. Circuit Court, and the D.C. Circuit Court said, yeah, he can do that. Basically remands that case and kills it. But then there's the big one. The big one that the Supreme Court released today has to do with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk's former outfit, and their request for Social Security Administration documents to be able to streamline the agency, look for waste, look for fraud, look for people that have bogus Social Security numbers that are drawing on the system. You, of course, remember the list from Donald Trump that he read of people that were, 230 years old that were still drawing Social Security, all the fraud that's on there. Well, everybody complained about, Elon Musk has access to Social Security. He's gonna corrupt it. It's gonna be fraudulent. This is why the oligarchs are running things. Remember, the same people that are complaining about the oligarchs running things and trying to block Elon Musk from having access to those records now are celebrating because Elon Musk is no longer in the White House and he has a lot of money and maybe we can win him back over to our side. But that's a separate argument. The Supreme Court had the case in front of him, which had been appealed by the White House directly to the Supreme Court, that, look, you're charging us with oversight of this agency. We're supposed to be overseeing this agency. We're trying to do exactly that and clean up waste and fraud. We have an agency authorized by Congress and by a previous Democratic president, Doge, to be able to do this kind of oversight. And now you're telling us we can't do it. What gives? In a 6-3 decision, all 3 liberals dissenting, but the 6 conservatives on the court all said, well, actually, yes, those can have access to the records. They can do what they need to do. It's part of their government oversight. It's part of their role in Article 2. The Article 3 Supreme Court respected the power and the role of the Article 2 branch to oversee an Article 2 branch agency. So it was 2 big wins for Donald Trump today, and that's very good news. We had Scott Jennings on with Ed Morrissey guest hosting yesterday, and Scott's a friend, and it's hard not to have kind of a man crush on Scott Jennings when he appears on CNN. He is doing the Lord's work over there. Last night on the panel with Abby Phillip on their primetime program, which he's on almost every night, after the day that Republicans had to face with the online spat between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Here was Scott Jennings and how he handled it with grace and humor, cut number 7.
Now, as for Trump, he's got a bill and an agenda that is now in serious jeopardy. Man, these men, too emotional these days to lead, apparently. It's kind of scary.
Abby.
Is that a bag for you to breathe into?
No, this is what
okay.
I'll be pouring this in my news
watching,
mug
if you're
tonight.
watching on the Salem News Channel, he's opening up the Pepto-Bismol and pouring a mug of Pepto-Bismol. It's really kind of a grand way to do it. It cut the ice, it cut the mood. It was really good. And then a little bit later on in the same program, the left thought, oh, we got an open backfield because the Republicans are on the ropes because of this fight. We can call for whatever we want, and they can't push back. Wrong. Once again, Scott Jennings, cut 8.
With the liabilities.
According to your logic train, we need to let more illegal aliens into the country, give them more health care to keep all the hospitals.
Let me tell you what I'm saying.
Are you for it or not?
Can I start my logic train with you?
Are you for it or not?
My logic train starts with the fact that I don't want to kick 11 million people off
Do you
of
want
Medicaid.
the illegal aliens on or not?
First of all, do I want undocumented citizens to have health care?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Scott, if someone is
More
undocumented,
Democrats.
do you want them to not get insulin if they're diabetic?
I want Medicaid to exist first and foremost for American citizens who need it. That is what I
what about
want.
second? I mean, first and foremost, of course. But
I want the
also,
program to exist and be solvent for the people who need it.
Do you realize that when people show up at your hospital, that we actually pay for that? Do you understand that when people get sick,
I know how it works.
How about this? How about this? When the people that are picking your peaches. Yeah, I'm passionate about Americans.
Passionate for the illegals.
Bakari,
No, I'm passionate for
How
Americans.
dare you want people to be alive? How dare you?
Passionate for the illegals. Bring more.
No, I actually want safe and secure borders.
You need more. To make your vision of America work, we need more illegals who get more benefits. That's your version of America.
No, what I want from America is a place that was promised to us, Scott.
To the illegals?
Like you do. No, it was promised to us. It was promised to us,
who?
not us, me and you, black and white, brown. Scott, do you think that your family was born here? You weren't born here, Scott.
I was born in
First of all,
Where
does your family come from? My family wasn't born here. My family was actually from Sierra Leone.
You're making a passionate argument for a country.
He forced them to argue that Medicaid and Medicare should be available for the entire globe, and we'll just pay for it. We'll find a way to pay for it. But health care for all to this panel doesn't mean health care for all within the borders of the United States, but all on this rock, the globe. Where that money's going to come from? I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk can float it. It's just ridiculous what the Democrats are arguing. This segment is always reserved for the poet laureate of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Tarzana Joe. Hello, Joe. I can't imagine anything online that may have happened in the last day or so that may have caused you caused the verse to flow free forth.
Forthwith.
Actually, I was thinking about your situation. You know, you deal with the news cycle 24/7. I just have it for 5 minutes one day a week. And you must feel like I Love Lucy in the Chocolate Factory every time Trump comes to the microphone.
Pretty much.
Right. Did you ever know a couple who, when they were first dating, had such passionate attraction it was almost aggravating? Their searing symbiosis was so palpably intense that the prospects for success as well as failure were immense. Think of Liz and Richard. Their courtship was a blur, man, just like Ernest Borgnine and the lovely Ethel Merman. For when you soar toward heaven on a hypersonic thrust, just a small anomaly can scatter you to dust. Some may say they saw it coming and are not a bit surprised. Others speculate just how it all, oh, I missed my own rhyme there, are not surprised a bit. Others speculate about just how the fuse was lit. In what we've all been seeing, a textbook case of pride, or has the willing media been taken for a ride? Whatever is the outcome, don't say you ain't been warned. Fiction has no fury like a genius who's been scorned. There's going to be a rumble. There isn't any doubt of it. So my advice to everyone, for goodness sake,
stay out of it.
Tinder, Bumble, and Rumble by Tarzana Joe.
That's about on par for how this week has certainly been. Joe, it was definitely an interesting week this week, and of course next week is going to be no different. I have no presupposition that we're not going to see just as kind of a bumbling week as we saw this week. Is this verse available on TarzanaJoe.com soon?
Yes, it will be. Did I ask? Does you have like a psychic advisor who tells him when to go on vacation so that the whole world,
but somebody on X earlier in the week said every time Hugh goes on vacation, every time period, he goes on vacation, something goes wobbly in the world, and I'm just the lucky recipient to be able to bring all the news to people, and I'm grateful to do so. Tarzana Joe at hotmail.com is where you go to ask Joe to do verse for hire, or you can go to tarzanajoe.com, click on the I Want a Poem button. But get a hold of Joe. His rates are reasonable, and he is a very, very good and funny writer. tarzanajoe.com.